I'm Jupiter at night on the internet before a live audience.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Jupiter at Night. My name is Chris.
My name is Jeremy.
Hey there, J-Man.
Hi.
Hey, so there was a big old thing today.
Yep, kind of broke the internet for a little while.
It actually literally did. So Apple's iPad 2 announcement was today, and I thought we might be covering this story on Jupiter at Night today, so I decided to join the masses and follow the event live as it happened.
Yeah?
And I had, Ars Technica up, I had Engadget.com up, I had, a lot of sites up. And when it started tweeting out that Steve Jobs was on stage, the internet just died.
A little unexpected. He was on medical leave since like December or something.
Yeah. And so the internet literally did stop for a minute. It was kind of weird to just all of these sites all of a sudden went down. I thought, oh well, all right, maybe I won't be covering this today, and and then I'll pop right back. But it was funny enough. So yeah, we've got new iPads to talk about, and we thought, well, we'll cover these iPads for sure because that's kind of the big story today, but it would be a good opportunity to just sort of talk about the states of the big tablets as we have them.
Sure, and we've got a lot of comparison links and stuff that we can go through tonight.
And I think we'll focus on the most tangible ones we're going to get our hands on. You've got, of course, now the iPad 2. You've got Motorola's Zoom out there.
With an X.
With the X.
Which means it's extreme.
Yeah. And then you've also got, coming up real soon, we've got some news on the BlackBerry Playbook and when you might be able to get your hands on that. So we'll talk about that. Let's jump in, though, to the iPad first, because that's today's big story.
Yeah.
Whoa!
I don't own an iPad 1, so I guess maybe I'm a little bit out of the loop here.
Okay.
I know that you do.
I have an iPad 1, and I took a while to get my iPad, to be honest with you. I didn't buy it.
But then you bought two.
Well, then my wife once I got one, my wife wanted one. So, I think, the big thing that finally got me to jump on the iPad bandwagon was the applications. Comic book reading was big for me. And then for my son, there's a lot of apps on there that are really like fish ponds where you can play with fish, or there's a piano app and you actually can play the piano keys and all this stuff.
It's very easily, intuitively interactive.
It's great for a 2-year-old. It's a crazy great little on-the-spot entertainment device. And then, I also wanted to try it for our videos and things like that.
Yeah.
So I thought, when the iPad 2 came along, it'd have to do something to really grab my attention because those core needs are still met with the iPad 1.
Well, why don't you, I know we talked about this quite a bit before the show. In fact, you guys are only getting a small scratching of the surface of the things that we talked about. But go ahead and cover some of the major things because I know you were really excited about the 720.
That's the biggest thing for me is, so the specs of the new iPad 2 are that it's got a 720p video camera in it, like you were saying. And for us, when you combine that with the video editor you can buy for $5, we're for
$5.
For us, on location, video shooting, being able to shoot 720p video and then turn that around and then be able to publish, cut, edit, and publish directly to YouTube will be huge for us.
And the iPad itself can do all of the shooting, all of the editing, all of the encoding, and all of the publishing.
Even the MP4 encoding, And
that is really crazy.
And the other thing is I could be like, here, Jeremy, here's an iPad 2, go down and cover this event.
Yeah.
And then you could FaceTime back to the studio and be like, here I am, Chris, live at the studio. And I could be like, and let's throw to Jeremy now. And then we'd throw to your camera. So we could, just capture like we capture our screens here.
That is the future, man.
So I'm excited for those reasons. And I realize those kinds of things aren't like super applicable to most people.
Right.
But there's a couple other things that people might find interesting. Looking at the tech specs here.
Red Hammer in the chat room says that amateur porn just got a lot easier.
Interesting, yeah, huh? I can imagine amateur porn services around FaceTime.
They must have been really excited about today's announcement, really.
You got a dual-core processor.
I don't know if they've called it FaceTime anymore, though. Really, technically.
No. That dual-core A5 processor will help that jerk time call go even faster, or whatever you want to call that, and then make a jizz time call.
I was just thinking ass time.
Oh, okay, that works too. You've also got the other thing I think people are going to care a lot about is the new iOS, which will reach to the other devices too, which includes iOS 4.3 is going to include Air Video. And I think this is probably going to become one of the more competitive features of iOS stacked up to Android.
It's one of the big features that I see them talking about, AirPlay. And I didn't understand why until you started telling
the
me
implementation's
about it.
neat, and you've actually got it today on iOS 4.3 on the iPhone and on the iPad in a more limited extent. Like going back to my son, we have Monsters Inc. and a few other movies on the iPad, so that way, if we need to run into the grocery store and maybe Mom's going to run in and I'll wait in the car with Dylan, we'll throw up Monsters Inc. on the iPad, and Dylan and I will just chill for a few minutes. Well, in the bedroom, we can do the same thing because for Christmas, my father got us an Apple TV, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this? So I was like, well, I'll put it up in the bedroom because, that's where we have the iPad too, and or usually upstairs. And, you can walk into the bedroom, and with a single button, you hit Air Video, and the video just immediately starts playing on the TV over the wireless.
Now, another thing that now that it's going to be incorporated into the entire OS.
Yeah, any app can write to that, and the web pages.
Screen display. Now, you were saying that like the iVideo app is possibly going to have an option. iMovie.
Yeah, iMovie.
Where you can do all your editing on the iPad, but then send the actual video preview to a
TV.
Television.
Or they're going to support it in Safari too, so folks watching Jupiter Broadcasting content, if they have the corresponding Apple TV, which is where they get you, because you got to get that too. If you have that corresponding device until somebody reverse engineers that, you'll be able to. You could be watching Jupiter Broadcasting on your iPad and hit one button, and now it's on your TV.
The cool part that I see this is potentially, I'm a big PC proponent, but I can potentially see a point in the future where tablets can become PCs.
General computing devices.
All you need is a few peripherals to make it more user-friendly for productivity work. And one of those things that you need is a bigger monitor.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, a 10-inch screen is cool when you're holding it, but if you actually want to get some work done, that's just not quite enough. With AirPlay, you can just send it to your big old monitor, use your Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and all of a sudden your iPad is just your tower.
Yeah, and then when you need to go mobile again, you hit the button back and it comes right back.
Exactly.
Yeah, that could be handy. So you've got that. It's thinner. That's always they always have to change the design to make you want to buy the next one. So
now I've heard it's so thin that it's like stupid thin. Like
it's
people don't understand how
it's
can be.
It's supposed to be thinner than the iPhone 4, and it's just you're supposed to hold and be like, how can this be this thin?
Just looking at pictures on the internet, I was like, that's a dear God, I'm going to break this thin.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty crazy. It's they have like a tech specs page. It's 0.3 of an inch or something like that. It's
That's crazy though. It's less than half an inch thick.
And they're going to throw in a Verizon version too that you can pick up if you want. Same battery life, things like that.
It was a big deal when they came over to Verizon with the phone. And now they're just doing it out the gate.
Yeah. I think people expected that though. I don't know.
I guess so. Another really cool feature that is completely fluff, as our fleet mates in Stowe would call it, fluff. It means it adds no value.
Right.
The cover.
Oh yeah. They're calling it like the smart cover.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, at first I rolled my eyes. But if I do pick up another iPad, I don't know if I will, but if I do...
I rolled my eyes too. You were like, yeah, and it's got a kind of a cool cover. You got to kind of see it.
I think I'll get this thing.
Yeah.
So they call it the smart cover, and they've built in magnetic spots on the iPad that this cover connects to.
Mm-hmm. Snaps right on there.
And then just lays down on top of it, and it's got a microfiber undercloth, so that's kind of cleaning your screen while it's down.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's magnets throughout the cloth, and the iPad's aware and can turn the screen on or off when the cover's open or closed.
And this is a cool part too. It can also be used as a stand.
The cover folds up with those magnets and snaps together and acts as a stand. For FaceTime, that could be handy.
That's really cool.
That's a neat idea.
And it doesn't add bulk, it doesn't add weight, and it can be used like your current cover on your iPad 2 has a back.
Yeah.
I mean, if on your iPad,
I'd have to take it out if I wanted to use the camera for an iPad too. Yeah. Plus, it probably wouldn't fit in there very well because it's so thin.
Right.
So there's that issue too. So, you got to wonder if the case manufacturers are going, oh man, of course
we got to make all new ones.
Well, one of the questions was,
they're probably, hey, we have to make all new ones.
Well,
they have to buy one.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, exactly. Yeah, they're not hurting too bad. They make more money. And people are like, do we get to use the magnets? Because Apple has a magnetic power connector for their laptops that they don't allow other people to use that technology. And in this case, it's just magnets. You can use them. You're okay. I didn't know for sure. But so overall, I think it was a pretty... the only real stinker that I think most people didn't expect anyways would have been nice to have a higher resolution screen.
It would have, but you know what? When you're dealing with a 10-inch screen, I don't know that you have to be that high resolution.
Yeah, it's pretty crisp.
Yeah.
It's a pretty crisp screen now, so you're right. And one of the things, because they didn't increase the resolution very high, is it lets them push way more pixels on the screen. So they're touting, and we'll believe it, when the benchmarks show it. But they're touting a 9 times improvement in graphics performance, and so
because they don't have to work extra hard to make bigger pictures that's still the same size.
What was it was like I forget the dude who came out. He's pretty big in the gaming industry, and he said, I think that the iPad 1 has about Xbox original gaming graphics. Do you remember?
I remember that quote. I don't recall who it was from.
So if we just had that with the iPad 1, and then you give a 9x improvement, if it really is truly 9x, that could be competitive too with maybe the Tegra 2 or something like that the Zoom's shipping with.
But before the iPad and the iPhone and the iPod Touch are already, there is already a gaming community.
I know. That was probably the number one feedback we were getting is these other tablets like the Zoom, and there's some good comparison charts out there. And
Brother Lou in the chat room says that quote was from John Carmack.
Oh, John Carmack. Thank you, Brother Lou. There's a few charts we're going to link to in the show notes, and they all kind of show how some of these other tablets actually have, on paper, more competitive graphics processors.
Yes.
And like the Tegra 2. But the big holdup is still the games actually available for the platform.
The app market.
Yeah, the app market.
Let's start talking about the Zoom a little bit, because when you talk spec to spec, it does kind of look competitive.
Yeah, if you take price out, chips and if you take price out,
right?
I think if you take a price out, you can say the Zoom, has a 10.1 inch screen, so slightly larger screen. The Zoom has a higher resolution, 1280 by 800, versus the iPad's 1024 by 768.
Really, when you take the Zoom compared to the iPad 1, it was a pretty clear winner. Again, when you ignore
I think so.
price.
Yeah. And to give the Zoom a fair nod. The Zoom base price at $799 is 32 gigs.
Okay.
The iPad base price at $499 is 16 gigs.
Okay.
So when you factor in the storage, but the differentiator is the iPad even offers a lower entry model.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking a tablet,
you're an iPad user. Do you ever run out of storage?
I do because of videos for Dylan, and I also load Deep Space Nine on there and stuff like that. But so I'd like more storage, and I'd like that if Apple just let me put an SD card in there. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But they don't.
Does the Zoom?
I don't think it does, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
But another sticking point I think it's the Zoom, isn't it? That's got a really small app market.
Well,
thinking of the
no, that's of course the other stuff's the same condition because they're also honeycomb tablets.
Honeycomb.
But the main point that Steve Jobs put this image up there and said there's 100 honeycomb formatted applications and there's 65,000 iPad formatted applications, and that is true. Not all apps run great on the Zoom.
Right. Now they will theoretically run, but they're not optimized.
And they will
honeycomb.
Eventually be optimized.
Yeah, but
I also just want to make mention of the Steve Jobs appearance just really quick before we go completely into the Zoom, because I just want to give it a nod that it was pretty impressive.
Like we mentioned before, it was kind of a surprise too.
It was, and when El Jobs stepped out on stage, he got a standing ovation, and I would imagine so. I don't think a lot of people expected maybe ever see him again.
Everybody lift up their phone and take pictures of him.
Yeah, and he just stands there and takes it for a second. He's like, "Yeah, you're welcome. I'm here. You're happy." It's
he kind of laid down some smack talk during the.
Yeah, he did.
The interview.
It's not always his style. They will often make digs at Dell by putting a Dell computer up there, but have it just turned so that you don't see the logo, or something like that. They will dig at Microsoft, but to really go out after the Samsung CEO from the comments he made over the Galaxy Tab, and he went after the honeycomb
some
directly.
Blowback over that too.
Well, it's not always a classy thing to do.
Nope.
Although really at this point, I think. All objectiveness as it is, I am a Galaxy Tab owner, and all objectiveness in consideration, they've sort of earned bragging rights at this point. The iPad 2, while not revolutionary, is a solid product upgrade.
Yeah,
you're talking, possibly 2 times processor performance, possibly 9x graphics performance, cameras, all that stuff.
Thinner, just as high battery life,
and so I think you could make the argument, and this is the argument Apple's trying to make, is they've lapped the Android tablets.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at earlier, too, is the Zoom was a competitor for the iPad 1. Now the iPad 2 is here, even though the Zoom only reached us a month ago.
Yeah.
And the Zoom is already outclassed by the iPad 2. It's got slightly better, the iPad 2 has slightly better specs in some areas than the Motorola, and it's $200 cheaper.
Motorola has a better screen size and resolution.
And better storage, just like we said earlier.
Yeah. And the possibility to upgrade to LTE later. But what difference does it make if it has the Tegra 2 processor and a better screen resolution if there's no video content to watch on it unless you pirate it yourself, and maybe that's fine. And there's no games really to play. There's just a handful of adequate games.
Right.
Versus, I mean, there is a value to that to the ecosystem that they've built there with the iPad applications.
Yeah.
And the iPad applications are a step above the iPhone apps.
Well, not only that, but as from a developer's point of view, the iOS just has such a large market share. I know Android is a large market share as well.
Oh yeah.
But iOS still has the larger share.
I think
for
if you
gaming
consider, if you
on
can,
mobile
I think if you look at just the phone market, Android at this point, I think most
right,
people's
but
numbers.
iOS has also the iPad and the iPod Touch,
right,
which is millions more users.
right, yeah.
And if you can make a game that markets to a larger audience,
Yeah, if you make
for the
something
same amount or less effort, then do it.
you can sell. Not only are you selling it to iPhone users, but you can sell it to iPod Touch and iPad users. Yeah. So there's a pretty strong draw there for developers too. But coming in out of all of this and kind of like a weird spot now is the Playbook from RIM.
This is BlackBerry's first tablet
Yeah,
entry, isn't it?
yeah. And the rumor at this point, now this is just a rumor from the Boy Genius Report, that it will ship on April 10th.
2 months from now, approximately, right?
2 months, and this is a pretty competitive product. Now,
Actually, only about a month and a half from now.
what RIM has done is they've taken the QNX operating system, which is known for being super fast, and they took that and they've built the UI on top of Adobe Air.
Really?
Yeah, which to me seems like it's going to be pokey and take a lot of battery, and it does though. What I think it does mean is applications. I think it's going to be really fast for apps to hit it.
Okay.
So it's going to enter the market. Like we were just talking about how many apps the iPad has games-wise. And obviously the Playbook not even shipping yet, not even up for pre-order yet, has astronomically less apps. Yeah. But if if there's a lot of Flash people out there that can develop Flash apps, it's going to be tough for me to buy that as a good user experience. I think Adobe has a way of smoke screening people. I think like Adobe rolls in like they did to a TiVo, and they said, you know what, we'll modernize your entire UI for your new TiVo series that you're going to put out there, and then they release a TiVo experience based on Adobe Flash and Air, and it sucks.
Yeah.
And to this point, RIM is still not talking about the battery life in the Playbook. And
well, they actually said battery life is one of the last things that we optimize for.
Oh boy, that makes me nervous.
That just sounds dumb, to be quite honest.
It seems like you build for battery
life,
yeah,
right? And another thing that we were talking about before the show, the iPad has a phenomenal battery life, and that thing never heats up either. Yeah,
you can leave it in the sun and it'll overheat.
Yeah, it'll notify you that you left it in the sun.
And it's funny because I was like, yeah, and then I started thinking about it. I was like, but like sometimes just running one app on my Galaxy Tab, it starts getting warm, and my Evo frequently gets very hot. They get, so yeah, there is something to that. I don't know if the zoom heats up yet, but there's some sort of inherent design efficiency there.
Yeah.
Based on, when something heats up, it's not using all of the electricity being given to it effectively.
Right.
That's why, these like Core i7s run so freaking hot. There's some efficiency loss. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, and we'll see where the Playbook stacks into all of this. But if you're kind of maybe entering the market now and you're thinking, I'm skeptical. I'm really skeptical about the Playbook, and as is Ars Technica. But if you're thinking you want to review and compare these different things, go check out the show notes because we got a ton of stuff.
Sure. You know what? We have several charts we didn't even actually get to because we were moving too fast.
Yeah, we do that.
But we've got side-by-side comparisons of all of these tablets that we've talked about, and some of them are just really just interesting to look. I'm looking at them.
Yeah, I'm looking at a few of them right now, and people really jumped on these infographics, and they're pretty handy.
Who doesn't like pictures, man?
Oh, one feature that I think could be really also, so just to maybe wrap up, as I haven't made my mind up yet, but as I'm looking at this, the features that have gotten my attention as a dad and as a video producer, FaceTime HD does seem really good. I like the idea of being able to FaceTime home and asking my wife to turn the camera around and show me the kids.
Right.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
I also like the idea of being able to go on location and send video back, obviously.
Or edit it on location there.
Yeah, like I'd love like if we were at a conference or something.
I think that's one thing that the iPad 2 has impressed me about is that it does, a lot of people called the iPad 1 a consumer device, where all you were doing was consuming content on a continuous basis. You were reading books, you were watching movies, but you weren't making anything. It wasn't a productivity machine. But with some of the apps like iMovie and GarageBand that they've already got coming and are touting on the iPad 2, with the integrated, like I was saying earlier, with a video, you can shoot it, edit it, encode it, and publish it all from the iPad.
And with GarageBand, you could theoretically make a little soundtrack to it too, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a small step, but it's a necessary step to taking tablets out of being a toy and into being a necessity.
Well, I bet you'll even be able to live. I'm sure there'll be a Ustream and a Justin TV app for that.
Of course.
We were at PAX and we tried to live stream from my Droid, and the problem is the battery life in a phone. It's not because it's a Droid. It's just because it's a phone. It's just not going to last that long. But when you've got that 10-hour battery, even if you're blowing through that thing at mass usage, it's still going to last long enough to do what you need to do. That's competitive. So I'm looking forward to it for that. But the last feature that I think has my attention as a video production person is it now is going to offer 1080p mirrored HDMI video out. Well, we have the capability of full HDMI capture. So we would be able to have the iPad here and say for Lotso or something, we want to talk about a video game, we'll be able to grab the visuals from that, show it to the live stream as we're doing it, maybe show a walkthrough or something like that. I mean, it could be really good for video production too.
Absolutely.
Assuming
and
it's not
multimedia production for anybody that wants to use Apple Media.
Yeah.
Or, even just play a video.
Yeah.
We could load up all of our visuals on an iPad slideshow and just play through them if we wanted to put them up behind us.
It's true. Yeah.
Now that it's got that HDMI out.
Yeah, that HDMI out is going to be really nice. And
plus, another thing, like I was saying about the tablet becoming your workstation, an HDMI out can plug into a monitor.
True that.
If you wanted
that
to.
monitor right there takes HDMI.
So, you could do that too.
Well, we'd like to hear what your thoughts are and what tablet you're going to pick up. And I'm also looking for someone's take on the Motorola Zoom, if you've happened to pick it up.
Like a hands-on?
Yeah. There was an article that came out that there might be a $499 Zoom in 2 months that's Wi-Fi only.
Okay.
And so my thought is right now is wait a little bit, let the iPad 2 ship, see what people say, see if a Zoom comes around at $499. Then you've got a real horse race between the Zoom and the iPad 2.
Yeah, because right now the price difference is kind of killing them.
Pretty high.
Yeah.
But if you could get that Zoom down, even if it's a 16 gig option or add your own storage with SD, that'd be slick.
Yeah.
And that'd be a real competitive market.
You were mentioning SD cards. I don't know why none of these devices seem to offer them. Like,
I wonder if you can take what's happened with Windows Phone 7, where the phone manufacturers forced Microsoft to incorporate SD cards, and it's just caused all kinds of problems because SD cards, I guess, are not like super reliable in their performance. So I don't know. Google's managed to get it working just fine with Android, and digital cameras have done it for years. I don't know if that's a real excuse, but that's Microsoft's
I just love the
excuse.
idea of being able to like put Monsters Inc. on a disc, so you just have to plug it in and then just take it out.
That's probably why they don't do it, because then they just make you buy a device with more storage if you want that.
Yeah, whatever.
I hear you, dude. I hear you. All right, everyone. Well, like I said, let us know your thoughts, and if you'd like to jump into the chat room and join us live when we're doing the show and incorporate your feedback as the show is recorded, you can do that over at jblive.tv. Also, every show we do now over at jupiterbroadcasting.com is live. And
That's scary.
And we make all of that information public over at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. You like how that works? That makes sense. That's probably a good place for it to go. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching tonight's episode of Jupiter at Night, and we'll see you tomorrow night.